Yo, and welcome into Fantasy Baseball Camp. This is episode 29. We're getting ready for week 14, guys. Is it really week 14 next week?
It
Doesn't
is
feel like it.
almost halfway through, man.
Well, we are
almost.
halfway.
Yeah, we're at least halfway.
We are halfway.
Because we usually do about 23 weeks, 24 weeks of a season. And we're about to be at week 14. All-Star break is just around the corner. I hope everybody listening is doing well in their fantasy season, because if you are listening to us, I would hope you are doing well based off our advice. Tommy, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. It just made me realize that we're over halfway and we're coming close to the end, that we're trying to figure out if you're going to be a buyer at the trade deadline or if you're going to be like Wes and sell because you're no good.
Hey, man, I'm just offering trades to people and they're not even looking at them. So I don't know what to say. What do you want me to do?
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't
think
get
same record I do.
Getting an offer of a trade and just leaving it there. Just leaving.
I think you should say that louder.
Say it from the people in the back.
I don't get no.
I'm good.
I don't like having trades in my inbox, because then if I offer one, I won't leave it there because I'm scared that something will happen and they hit accept real fast.
Yeah. So I'm going to propose a rule change for next season. You're penalized a draft dollar every time you leave a trade unrejected for 2 days.
That's kind of that's a little much, because some people might look for the week. I was going to say if it goes from period to period. How about that?
If you're offered a trade and you don't reject it by the next period, you're fined $5 draft dollars.
No, that's stupid. I'm quick to eject and reject. I still think that's
someone will just offer trades all the time and hope to penalize.
Yeah, that was my point.
I'll be sending Tommy trades all the time. All right, so like I said, we're trying to help continuously to help you listeners out with picks that we think will be productive next week. And Tommy, who do you think's productive next week?
I've got a guy that I think will be productive, not just for next week, but for many weeks to come.
Oh, let's hear it.
And his name is Brian Whoaaa. He's starting pitcher exactly. Who? Woo?
Brian Woo. That was kind of like a woo kind of pun.
Brian.
Kind of there.
So he's a starting pitcher. He's one of their top prospects, starting pitcher from Seattle Mariners. He is currently 56% rostered, so in CBS, about halfway there. For the year, he is sporting a 4.37 ERA and a 1.24 WHIP, and you're like, that doesn't sound that good. Why are you talking about him? Well, what happened? It's the first game of the year for him. His debut was June 3rd. He came up against the Texas Rangers. And I don't take any game against the Texas Rangers to heart for a pitcher. Those guys are incredible. He went 2 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, just absolutely got destroyed. But since then, he sports a 2.18 ERA, 1.97 average against, and let's see if I can pull up that whip, a 0.97 whip. So 2.18 ERA and 0.97 whip compared to the stat line of the year, 4.37, 1.24. You tell me some guys got 2 ERA and a sub-1 whip. I want that all day, to go along with 32 strikeouts in 22 innings. That's one of the best strikeout rates in the league. And his walk rate, 6.3, is well below league average too. So everything you want out of a guy is shown in this, and the surface numbers aren't there. So if you have somebody who's not paying attention, you may be able to trade for this guy. But if he's on your waiver wires, I would definitely go out there and add him.
It seems like Seattle is just turned into a pitching factory. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, Logan Gilbert, then George Kirby, Bryce Miller, and now Brian Woo. I mean, I had an idea who Bryce Miller was before the year, but Brian Woo, I had no idea who this guy was.
I think one other unique thing about them is I agree that they're a pitching factory, but they're also heavy on the fastball pitching factory. All 4 of those guys.
Yeah.
Woo, Kirby, Miller, Gilbert.
They still have Emerson Hancock coming.
Yeah, all fastball heavy guys. So that was my waiver wire recommendation, not just for next week, but for probably the rest of the season. or maybe a trade recommendation. Still quiet. Someone doesn't really know much about it. They just see the numbers. Offer them Kyle Hendricks. See if you can get him.
Offer them Kyle Hendricks, which will lead right into, I guess, my roster addition for today. Kyle Hendricks. He's only 47% owned. He's not striking guys out, but he's not getting hit either. And next week he is a 2-start pitcher with Milwaukee and the judgeless New York Yankees. They did get Stanton back, but over his last 3 starts, Kyle Hendrick is 19.1 innings, 1.4 ERA, and a .62 WHIP. So the guy's going deep, not getting hit. Well, going deep, he throws 6 innings probably each start, but that's a quality start. That's what you want. That's what you want. So I know Hendricks has been from his year 2016 was his career year, of course. Slowly got worse and worse. Was always okay, but then the last 2 years he just seemed so hittable. It seemed like I can just remember vividly having the TV on my porch and the Braves just destroying Kyle Hendricks in the first inning.
I remember that too. Don't worry.
It was, I think, beginning of the year, so everyone was watching.
It was early.
But yeah, Kyle Hendricks, 47% owned. He is he's doing well. He's got 2 starts next week. I know Tommy just poo-pooed on him a little bit. But his trends are good. He scored 38.5, 15.5, and 23.5. No real down starts in his last 3 weeks, like I just mentioned, his good stats. So yeah, that's my guy for this week. I don't know if I would see. I'm not saying like he's a Brian Wu that I would see for the rest of the year. I would play Kyle Hendricks because he can get blown up. Play matchups with Kyle. He plays the contact, but anyways, that's enough for Kyle Hendricks. Wes, who you got for us?
Yeah, so the guy I'm going to talk about is Austin Hayes. And, I just feel like he's not getting the credit he deserves this year. He's not a world beater, right? He hasn't quite eclipsed.
You're talking about Domingo Germán?
Domingo Germán. Yeah, shout out to Domingo Germán for throwing the 24th perfect game.
I heard beater.
A world.
He just abused the Oakland A's.
Oh, he did. So, shout out to that. I mean, honestly, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I had to go back and rewatch the perfect game, but that was kind of awesome.
He got too much attention. It's not the only person he probably beat that night.
Have you seen his last 3 starts or his 2 starts before that?
They were horrible.
2 innings pitched.
Drop-worthy.
2 innings pitched, 7 earned runs, and then the start before the perfect game, 3.1, 8 earned runs. The guy had no business throwing a perfect game.
Yeah, it's almost like the Dallas Braden perfect game, right?
Where that's the one I think about too.
What happened? Like, how did
Philip
this happen?
Humber?
Yeah, exactly. All the other ones are kind of legitimate.
But baseball is a funny sport.
Who are you talking about, Wes?
Anyways, back to Austin Hayes.
Oh,
so right. Austin Hayes with the Orioles. I just don't think that he gets enough credit. Is he a 1-2 outfielder guy? No. In 3 outfielder leagues, if you need a spot, I would trust him in as your 3rd outfielder. He's hitting .314. He has 8 home runs and 2 stolen bases, right? But what I will say is it's been pretty consistent in his pattern. All right. What I mean by that is week 6, he scored 12 points. Week 7, he scored 18.5. Week 8, 24.5. Right. Week 9, went back down 7 points. Week 10, 17.5. Week 11, 26.5. Right. So he has this pattern where he'll get hot and then he'll go cold. And then he'll get hot and then he'll go cold. But somehow he keeps his average above 314. So he continues to hit. He's right now in the portion of his pattern where he's right. What's
in
up?
the middle.
He's right there in the middle. So he scored 7 points last week. We're in week 13. He's already scored 10 points. So Austin Hayes looks like he's heating up at the plate for me. I think I'm gonna add him to trust in the next 2 weeks to see if he's going to push into that 20-point range for me for the next 2 weeks. He's currently rostered in 79% of CBS leagues, so he's pretty available. He ranks as a 62nd outfielder. But look, man, I mean, I just don't think he gets as much credit as he deserves for this year.
If you look at his stats, he's almost like a poor man's Masataka Yoshida.
Yeah.
He's got the same amount of home runs. He's got a similar average. The difference, similar runs and RBIs, but the difference is that K to walk ratio. Masataka Yoshida has a much better K to walk ratio.
I think one thing that you didn't mention that is a bonus for him is the lineup he has around him.
For who?
Not Austin
For
Hayes.
Oh,
Hayes.
right.
Is not only is the lineup good, and therefore you have a lot more run and RBI opportunities for the counting stats, but the lineup is good until you have a lot more opportunities for plate appearances just to rack up those hits, those home runs, those runs and RBIs, so you have more lineup turnover. I think two things specifically being for Baltimore that go in favor for him.
And he starts a 4-game series against New York to start Week 14, so that can only help because they don't have Carlos Rodon back. They just got Garrett Cole, and Domingo Germán apparently is a guy to watch out for.
He uses sticky stuff. Let's be honest.
Is he one of those guys that had on the neck?
No, that was Michael Pineda.
Oh, it was
Michael Pineda.
Yeah, that's right. You could just see it smeared on the dude's neck.
Yeah, like he did it on purpose and he wanted to get the run out.
I think Germán had it on his thigh or something.
Yeah, he had it on his
Yeah. Okay, so that was Austin Hayes of the Baltimore Orioles. Hayes has the pedigree of doing well and turning around, but yeah, Wes, that trend line, grade C, grade B, grade A, grade C, grade B, grade A, type weeks.
He's done that all year, and it's crazy if you look at it.
And next week he's on trend for the third set in a row to be grade A.
Hey, look, man, if you don't risk it, you don't get the biscuit. All right, so that's part of fantasy, man.
That's right.
That's part of fantasy, man. Like you got to risk it and take a chance because honestly, we're wrong a lot of the times.
Let's see if Tommy's wrong with his next pick here. Tommy, who's your next guy you want to talk about?
I may be wrong because I don't have 100% faith in this guy, but I think you read it while it's hot. That's Ha-Seong Kim.
Who?
Yes, exactly. Ha-Seong Kim. He's typically second baseman for the San Diego Padres. He's been there for a couple of years now, and he's been decent, but he's nothing been fantastic. For the year, he's got 258 average, 344 on base, and 411 slug. So, nothing's fancy, nothing special there. But over the last 2 weeks, he's turned something on. He's batting leadoff a lot of the times for the Padres, which in theory is a good lineup. He'll have Soto, Tatis, Xander, Machado all hitting behind him. A lot of opportunity to score runs. Last 2 weeks, 354, 404, 562. And he did really good today as well. That's not an updated stat. And he's eligible at second base, which is probably one of the harder ones to fill. But he's also got third base and shortstop if you need it. If you missed out on, someone like Luis Arias, who's really come around, or Matt McClain, or the Ketel Marte resurgence, he could be somebody that it helps you out over the next couple of weeks. I don't really expect him to do it long term and be a stud moving forward. But as long as he's batting leadoff for the Padres and he's continued to hit hot, he's been really interesting. I feel like every other day I see a highlight of him over the last 2 weeks. So he's someone who's intrigued me, and I've looked at speculating picking him up in our leagues if he's available.
I feel like he has like a 2-game hot streak, and then the rest, hot, and then the rest is kind of like, oh, okay, maybe I won't pick him up.
Yeah, I mean, his trends, Michael talks about that a lot, aren't anything impressive. They're not bad, but they're also not like, I have to get this guy on my roster. So I'm not saying he's a must-add, but if you're desperate for a second baseman in a deep league, the middle infielders leagues, even corners, since he's third base eligible, he's somebody I would look to pick up.
Yeah, I feel like all three positions he's eligible at, second, short, and third. You said.
Yes.
I feel like all of those are kind of thinning out a little bit. The guys who are on the you want on your winning team, your winning fantasy team, are figuring out who they got, and it's getting more difficult to fill all those positions. Every position's thinning out a little bit.
Yeah, it's getting to the point in the season where there isn't a difference maker on the waiver wire anymore, because the guys that are difference makers are typically on rosters. They've been picked up, they've been drafted, whatever.
Good point.
Like there aren't many, and the guys that come up on the waiver wire that are difference makers, like, doesn't surprise anybody, right? It's very hard to find like the diamonds in the rough out there now. So people's rosters have kind of settled in. You might get an add or drop here, but the major changes in roster have already happened.
Right. Yep. That's why you got to be active at the beginning of the year. You see the guys who aren't active as much, they draft and they don't make the moves, and you see them do well at the beginning of the year and they fall off. They're like, well, my guy got hurt. I had like 3 injuries. Well, you made 0 pickups.
Yeah.
I think the only people that are left that could be major impacts this year aren't on MLB rosters right now. The guys like Colton Cowser, Kyle Harrison, Mick Abel, Andrew Painter if he comes back. So there's which spec ad if you think they're going to come up soon. But
which is a reason why we are so big into the young guys and the prospects, because it's so hard to find difference makers as a bench player or a platoon player, because those are really the only, sometimes, most of the time, it's the guys that are available. But a young guy like a Kyle Harrison coming up, if he does get the nod, right? Like, that could be a difference maker immediately.
Right.
This is the most pitcher hyped rookie season I can remember in a long time, or just people are coming up.
Yeah,
and every other week it's like, I want that guy. Normally it's 1 or 2 guys. Every year you're like, yeah, that's fine. I think there's a dozen this year that I'm like, those guys need to be rostered.
Think about last year. Who was it? Spencer Strider? And who else?
Probably a couple others, but this year it just seems like lots of rookies that are available pitching wise.
I feel like a little bit of Tommy is you've had so many pitching injuries that you've been looking for pitching so much this year.
Yeah, also true.
Perhaps I've been slaughtered with injuries, but even so, I just feel like ones that are making an impact, like Bobby Miller, Bryce Miller, those guys came up, popped. Fott was hyped, didn't do much. Perez,
there's Yuri has been on fire lately.
Name after name that comes up, I'm like, this guy's a stud.
Yeah,
I hope Scott White makes Ellie De La Cruz $40 and Yuri Perez $38, and you guys have to pay it next year.
Unless we make the rule where you get half price.
I'm on board with that. I was always on board with that.
Everybody on this call is on board with that.
Scott,
I don't know.
Pay freaking $39 for Julio, and he's in $240 this year.
You're not angry, are you?
No, I'm not angry. I'm just a little upset with Scott specifically, because that's who we use for our value dollar.
He lives in Florida.
I know.
You want to talk to him?
I'll send him some mail.
Yeah. All right, Wes, with that, take that anger and tell us about your next pick, who I think could make some folks angry just hearing his name.
Oh,
yeah. It's not gonna. It might be some alarm bells. I don't know. Some people are gonna be like, "You're an idiot." Okay, that's okay. I'll take that.
Wes, you're an idiot. Before you even get to the name, you didn't even mention the name yet, but you
second that.
Okay, so I'm gonna say Kenta Maeda.
Why? Okay. You turned a little, did a little 180 there from your notes, but
wait, what do my notes say?
Tommy Pham.
Oh no! He was gonna be somebody I mentioned a little later.
Oh,
okay.
Whoops.
Sorry.
Thank goodness.
I do have I have a reason to mention Tommy Pham though. We'll get to that here in a minute. Kenta Maeda though. So in the state of where we are in pitching, like there's just not much out there that's available. Kenta Maeda just came back and he pitched really well. His first start, scored 21 points. And his next start was against the Braves in Atlanta. And I mean, it was a decent start. He didn't score many points, but he went 5. He only gave up 2 earned runs and 5 hits. Didn't strike out but 4. But he did pitch. If you watch the game, he actually pitched decent to pretty well against the Braves. And so for me, if you take away the one start that he has where the Yankees scored 10 runs on him in 11 hits, he actually has a 2.7 ERA minus that start, right? And he's been decent. Now, granted, he's not going to go deep into games. He's not going to get much run support with Minnesota because for whatever reason, their offense isn't great. And the other reason I say is not this week, but the week after, it looks like he's going to be a 2-start pitcher, and he might have some decent matchups there. So he hasn't been terrible. So I'm going to give him a chance, you know?
Somebody's going to give him a chance.
And it's very weird to say it that way, you know, but like in the state of pitching that we are right now, it's like, well, he hasn't been terrible. So yeah, sure, I'll roster him, you know?
He's not a major league roster.
But like that's where we're at in the world of pitching these days. And so when I watched Marietta pitch against Detroit, I was like, he looks good. He struck out 8. He went 5. He only got 3 hits. Like if Minnesota and so the one thing I did like, and the reason I'm mentioning in this is they came out to get him. I think it was against the Braves. He was 4 2/3, and manager came out to pull him, and Maeda said, "No, absolutely not. Like I'm finishing this inning," and he did. And you know what? To me, that's a guy that is hungry and he wants to be in the game. So, you know what? Give him a chance.
So you mentioned he would line up to be his 2-starter. So you recommending him for this coming week, or maybe someone to watch?
So he's a 2-start. He's not a 2-start pitcher next week, as in week. I think that's what week 14 we're talking about.
Yep.
So not week 14. I already checked that, but week 15 he should be a 2-start pitcher in week 15 because he started on Wednesday. He'll be on I think Tuesday next week. And then they'll have an off day, and he should be a Monday starter on week 15.
I don't know. I might start him next week, too. He faces Kansas City.
There's
exactly. Easy matchup.
Yeah. On July 4th, he faces up against Zach Greinke.
Speaking of pitchers being thin, well, there's some good news that Chris Sale's MRI came back clean, and he can start throwing again. He's still on the 60 days, so he can't come back until August 2nd. But
that's right around the corner.
Fantasy managers who roster Chris Sale, it's good news for the playoffs if he stays healthy.
Yeah, sometimes you look at those guys who are due back in August or your playoff stashes that, right now we're saying the prospects are the stashes because your impact guys, and the next level down is IL stashes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, I've got to get
Go ahead. I was going to interrupt you. So
there's a way you can take advantage of that too. If there's some guys like Chris Sale, Max Fried, Woodruff, Lodolo, all those guys that are on the IL, and you got a fantasy manager who's just borderline of making the playoffs a couple of weeks out. Those guys in the IL don't do him any good if he doesn't make the playoffs. So you may be able to sell him a pitcher who's good, but not quite Max Fried good, and because he needs to make the playoffs now. Max Fried in the IL doesn't do him any good if he can get Brian Wu or whoever for the next couple of weeks to help make the playoffs.
To get into it.
You can take advantage of that if you've got a cushion.
Yeah.
Just sneaky advice.
So last week we talked about Jordan Lawler and why he wasn't owned in our league. So I went and picked him up inside a minor spot. But now here I am mentioning the Diamondback shortstop, who I thought was not worth playing. And here's Geraldo Perdomo.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure I got that right. The dude's batting .296, 5 home runs, but as of late, he's on a 6-game hitting streak, batting over 350. Right now, it's at 350 exactly. his trends are pretty good. I talk about that, like Tom mentioned, a lot because I look at that to see what their ceiling is. The dude could put up 23 points last week, and the Diamondbacks are going into their schedule next week is New York Mets and Pittsburgh Pirates. So I think those are some decent hitting schedules for the Diamondbacks, who are surging right now a little bit. I mean, or they were, last week, still holding on to first place in front of the Dodgers, and I think they're just going to keep running. And the guys who aren't being relied on are able to just keep poking the ball and doing well. And that's Geraldo Perdomo. All right, so Tommy Pham, Wes. so much.
You guys are waiting on my. You're waiting on my spiel for Tommy Pham, huh?
Yes, please.
All right. So on June 3rd, his batting average was his slash line was 222, 327, 389. Just not great. As of today, his slash line is 268, 346, 488. He's raised his average 46 points in the matter of 25 days. Right? Now, since week 8, he's scored 16.5, 13.5, 22, 14, 17.5, and 14. Now, he's really been the only bright spot, if you want to call it that, for the Mets. Am I saying he's an outfield 1 or an outfield 2? No. But if you need an outfield spot, Tommy Pham's the guy where for 4 or 5 weeks, he's on a heater. And look, man, he's been scoring points, so I can't really knock him for it. He's definitely not a guy I trust. It's going to end, and he's going to end the year at probably like a 220, But while it's hot, man, I would run it. Like, he went 3 for 3 with a home run, an RBI, and a walk, and a stolen base yesterday. So
he's always had eye problems dating back to his time with St. Louis. And he recently had a procedure done that I guess corrected something. I don't remember all the backstory, but basically, long story short, he did something with his eyes to help his vision, and maybe that is helping turn it around. I know that was a story with Tampa Bay. That was a story everybody's been, and maybe they finally figured out what's wrong.
And look, I mean, here's the thing. Fantasy football is right around the corner. He doesn't have any negative things to worry about or any cheating scandals that we have to really dive into. So, until we get into like the September timeframe, like, yeah, sure, I'll trust Tommy Pham. He's not distracted about, the fantasy football lineup and whether you can stash somebody on the IL.
He is in the same division as Jock Peterson this year, so he will see him. Because who was it? Jock is the
Trout was the commish, I believe, but Jock and Trout and Pham were all in the same league.
Yeah. His family slapped Jock, right?
Yeah.
I got to revisit that video now.
That was weird.
Yeah. All right. So that's our notes for next week. You guys got any other guys you want to mention for week 14?
Yeah, one guy I do want to mention for week 14 because he's a 2-start pitcher. Dane Dunning.
I already talked about Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah. Hey, Cubs fan. Homer.
Drew Smiley. He's got 2 starts too.
Dane Dunning obviously pitches for Texas. He's going against Boston, who as of late has not had the same offense as they did, to start the year. And then he's going against Washington. He's 2-0 with a 2.49 in his last 2 starts, 21 innings, 3 walks, 15 strikeouts. So, look, man, if you're looking for a 2-start pitcher, throw Dane Dunning in the mix.
Yeah, Rangers are first in the AL West and lengthening that gap. And Boston's on a 5-game losing streak. So again, ride it while it's hot. Hit those spots where you can. Tommy, any final words for waiver wire for week 14?
No, just don't trust Domingo Guzman. Domingo Herman to be a stud. If you have him, and someone thinks the perfect game was awesome, sell
high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I would sell high on him immediately if you can.
So, all right. Well, that's been episode 29 of Fantasy Baseball Camp, our waiver wire for week 14. Be sure to give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter. Our videos are up on Spotify. You can see our videos as well as YouTube. Give us a follow there. Subscribe is the official term. And that's it for us here, episode 29. We'll catch you guys in the next one.